Hello and welcome back to another episode of STU'S Reviews. Now normally I'd be reviewing something like this, an electric scooter which is the 9-bot Max, but actually today I'm not going to be taking a look at an electric scooter. Today I'm going to be taking a look at something a bit different. I'm going to take a look at this. An electric skateboard, the Backfire Ranger X2 actually. This is the X2. The Ranger Backfire X2 is touted as Backfire's most comfortable electric skateboard to ride, which is in part down to its large curved deck design. But don't let its comfort fool you, because this thing is ridiculously aggressive. With a top speed of 22 mph and a range of 22 miles, it's undoubtedly quick, but not just top speed quick. Its acceleration is also insane due to its dual high power, high torque, 1200 watt hub motors. The throttle is controlled through a newly designed R2 wireless remote with an OLED display which is charged separately. The airless wheels have a honeycomb architecture that absorbs shock and bumps, along with the double kingpin trucks for greater comfort and flex. The specs make this thing seem monstrous. Truth is, I've been riding this now for about a week. Now that I've gotten used to riding this skateboard, I thought I'd come back and do a full-on, proper ride test and tell you how it is. Now, at first it was a bit different to a scooter, but now I'm actually used to it. Although, it is still a bit strange not holding on to any handles. I don't really like the fact I've not got a handle. So coming from an electric scooter point of view, this is very, very scary. But let's talk about the actual ride quality of this device. First of all, it's actually very, very smooth despite the fact that it's got solid tyres. It does have a honeycomb design to absorb some of the shock of the tyres, so overall, surprisingly, it's actually relatively smooth. One of the weirdest things about this is the double kingpin trucks. Now, the double kingpin trucks basically mean that it has a hell of a lot of flex on the board itself. It makes it quite difficult to ride, I feel. You can see here I'm moving my feet so slightly, and this thing wants to turn. It is very, very flexible, which isn't very good. So if you're going to use this, you literally need the balance of the scales of justice to make sure that you're staying upright on this thing. Oh, there's a chicken there. Welcome to the countryside. Because it's got that double kingpin truck, it means that it can go over ground and have a lot of flexibility and a lot of turning as well. So those double kingpin trucks are good in certain scenarios and not in others. Riding on the road like I am now isn't the best in the world because you really have to concentrate not to crash the thing. There is a lot of flex, so you really have to make sure that you're balancing properly on the skateboard at all times. I mean, I'm not going super fast at the moment. I'm currently doing 17 kilometers an hour, and this thing is capable of about 30 kilometers an hour. I'm doing 25 now. 25 kilometers an hour. So this thing in total will go about 22 miles per hour, which is much faster than any electric scooter that I've ridden so far. Now, hold on a second, coming over some really horrible, nasty terrain here. I don't want to kill myself. As you can see, I'm going over all this muddy ground pretty easily here. Those big wheels and the grip on there doing really nicely. It's not causing me too much issue. But the skateboard is handling this quite well. I'm currently doing... oh god, here we go, some big bumps there. And I was absolutely fine. Doing about 20 kilometers an hour still, which was quite nice. Obviously, I wanted to slow down a little bit. Now, there is one little issue I found with this particular skateboard, and that is when you remove your hand off the throttle, it does slow down considerably quickly, a little bit too quickly in my eyes, and it's thrown me off a couple of times because my balance hasn't been 100% on it. For example, have a look at this. It's ridiculous. And that is one big problem, right? That found with this, you let go of the thing, and it slows down so fast and throws you off. One thing that's also super noticeable about this is the speed. It is very fast indeed, and that is down partly to the fact it's got 2 motors on the back, 2 hub motors. Unlike some of the electric scooters I've reviewed, no, all of them so far, they've all had single hub motors, just the one hub at the front or at the back. This has 2 of them, both at 1200 watt high torque as well, so these things rip, absolutely rip, to the point where it's actually quite terrifying for someone like myself who doesn't have the best balance in the world. In fact, I'm not going to lie, I don't even dare to go to the max speed this thing can do. It just goes so quick. Sam, on the other hand, has been at the top speed, and to be fair, he's actually rather quite good at this, but it's a little bit fast for me, so unless you are really masterful at skating, then going at top speed may not be an option for you on this thing. So rather than just showing you what it's like on the road, I thought I'd come to somewhere where there's a lot more crap, like big twigs like that I've just went over, and mud and rubbish, and as you can see, this is handling this absolutely fine. And what's also important to note is I'm currently going uphill. Of course, the controller's too muddy for me to see now how fast I'm going. I think that says 13 kilometers an hour. I'm not exactly going super quick because it really, really is. Whoa, some terrible, oopsie daisy. That's me off. Terrible, terrible, terrible ground this is. But if my balance was better, this thing would just go for it. And that is impressive. I'm not going to lie. The thing that's letting this down is not itself, it's the rider. I'm letting it down currently. But overall, I cannot stress how well this is doing it. Just tackling pretty much any form of terrain I'm putting at it. It's just unbelievable. I mean, thick mud, gravel paths. It is very impressive. Way up. Nearly went then. But this really is undulating. Going uphill quite a lot now and over extremely rough ground. Got it on full throttle at the moment. Seems to be only doing 10 kilometers, but it is pulling me up this hill, which I can't really fault. I can't argue. Can't argue with that at all. This is actually quite a nice... I'm so surprised at how well this is doing. Right, it's not pulling me anymore, so I'm going to put it in turbo mode. How do you put it in turbo mode? Oh, bloody hell. It's definitely absorbing a lot of the gravel from this. It really is. Ooh, trying to avoid those big stones. Whoa, that was a bit slippy there. Whew. Right, I think that's enough demonstrating how this thing behaves on most types of terrain. Let's go back to the study and summarise this device. Back in the study to summarise the ride of the Ranger X2. And some of you may have noticed that I've got a moustache. This isn't normal. That's because I went to an 80s event in London and had to dress up like an 80s person. So that's why I have a moustache for the time being, but actually I quite like it. Anyway, overall I think this fared up very, very well and just seemed to power through most types of terrain that I threw at it. And that's down largely to the 6.5 inch wheels. They're huge, they're massive. Now the solid tyres, which are of a honeycomb design supposedly, and I guess if I chop one up I'd probably be able to find out, but I'm not going to do that. They are quite solid. There's very, very little give in these tyres at all. But the fact it's so smooth is largely down to the fact that the deck has so much flex. I mean, if I just stand up now and press down the middle, you can see it flexing. I'm just pushing on this a little bit but you can see that really flexing a lot, which is basically how it can absorb a lot of the bumps and kind of imperfections in whatever you're riding over, and that is how it is such a smooth ride. The double kingpin trucks, as I mentioned as well, really do also help with this, but I think they are very flexible, potentially too flexible. I mean, you can see, you know, if I just do this, you know, they're very flexible. And I found it quite difficult to balance on something like this with so much flex. It is perfect for carving. So if you are kind of someone who is used to that kind of thing, you'll have no problem at all. But for someone who's used to potentially a little bit more stable rides, that can come at a bit of a shock. So it does help with tight turns and generally all-terrain usage, but for road use, not so much. Now, in my eyes, the real star of the show here is the motors on the bottom. These things are incredible. The fact that there's two separate motors is wonderful, and it really adds to the overall power of this. Now, the fact they're hub as well rather than belt driven means that you're not going to get gunk caught up in the system and completely wreck the skateboard, which I know a lot of manufacturers do opt for belt driven models. That's because it's slightly cheaper. The fact that these are dual hub means that it is more resistant to water, it's more resistant to dirt, and you can just keep going. As you've seen, I've travelled through quite thick dirt, and on that field as well, I used it on a field where it was pretty much boggy, and they're still working fine. And these things are so fast, to the point where it's actually scarily fast. I mean, if I use this now, you'll see exactly what I mean. I mean, that's quick. You think that's quick? It's got a turbo mode. If I press it on here, it's an exclamation mark and does this. And what's even more scary is how efficient they are at stopping. If I pull back on the remote, that is how quick they stop. Of course, you'll have a little bit more momentum going when you're actually stood on this thing, but it really does stop very fast, and I cannot stress how quickly this stops. I mean, even if I don't pull back on the remote and just let go, that's a pretty quick stop in my eyes. Overall, the stopping power of this thing is ridiculous, and it's definitely something that took me a little bit of time to actually get used to. Now, another thing I'd probably say about my experience is that this is a heavy device. It is massive. It truly is massive, and it is super heavy. It's 10 kilograms, so it isn't the lightest thing in the world, and if you are traveling around with it, you can't carry it like a normal skateboard because it will start to hurt your arm after a while. But there is a big benefit to the way it's designed. The huge 6.5-inch wheels actually protrude slightly over the edge of this, which means that you can drag it by holding the top trucks like this, and the board isn't scraping on the ground. That has a huge benefit to the way you carry it, and I can guarantee that that is how you will be moving this thing if you're not on it, because it is just so bloody heavy. Something I haven't gone into in too much detail is the remote, which actually I think is a very pleasant little device. Overall, it's ergonomic and it's quite grippy because it's made of this kind of like matte textured plastic. Nice little display as well to show the battery on there and what mode you're in, whether you're in eco, sport or turbo, kill yourself, death mode. And the best thing about it is it charges through USB-C. So a round of applause and a gold star there for that design, because I love USB-C and it's great to see stuff like this starting to incorporate it as well. Perhaps another nice little feature, and again something I haven't really spoken about, is this. This is a little light that basically clips onto the front of the board. So when you are using it at night, you can actually see where you're going with a headlamp. I think that's very, very cool. And it's a good light as well. Very, very, very bright. So if you are looking to use this in all weathers and all hours and all terrain, this sort of thing is ace for that. But how much does all of this cost? Well, the Backfire Ranger X2 costs currently
£900, I believe, on their website, which, as usual, I'll leave a link in the description below for. Now it's time to talk about whether I think that is good value for money and whether or not this is something you should buy. I will say that it has been a pleasure to use. This thing can tear through the terrain extremely well and do it very, very, very fast. And I've been using it overall for about a week to 2 weeks. Obviously, I can't speak for the longevity and how well it will hold up in the end, but I haven't had really any issues with this so far other than the braking. But that's not because the braking's bad, it's because the braking is possibly too good. It makes it quite scary. I think this device matches its price perfectly because those dual motors, you've got 1200 watt dual motor, it's ridiculous. It's so fast and it's so resilient and able-bodied, this thing. Overall, I think that that price is actually very reasonable for the piece of kit that you're getting. Is it something you should buy? Well, here's the thing. If you're brand new to electric skateboarding and you've never ridden a skateboard ever, then this is going to be quite an advanced option for you because it really does have an advanced set of features. So don't expect this to go easy on you. If you're brand new to it, I can imagine you're going to fall off and bruise yourself quite a few times before you get used to riding this because it is just so powerful. But if you're like me and have already ridden skateboards, or you're a more advanced user of skateboards, or maybe you're even used to electric skateboards already, then this thing I can promise you will not disappoint you because it's just ace, and I'm so impressed with how well it powers through everything. So I think if you're looking for a skateboard that can literally just be thrown at any terrain and do pretty much anything you throw at it, then this is definitely a fantastic option for you. Just do not expect it to go easy on you. You're going to have to work for it. And that concludes today's review. Guys, I want to say a massive thanks to all my current patrons. You guys are incredible and you make episodes like today possible. So a huge thanks to every single one of you. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode on electric skateboards. Let me know what you think about the electric skateboard and whether or not it's something that could replace your scooter if you've got one. Or let me know what you think of it in general. And other than that, I'll see you back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon.
Let's give this a go. Oh, Christ almighty. Oh, shit! Oh, this is going to be a long afternoon.